Excited to be with you all. If I've never met you, my name's Matt. I'm excited to be here. Here's the deal. I want to jump into a story. I don't know how many of you guys knew this, but when I was in college, my summer jobs, I would go up to the mountains and I would log. All right, I'd cut down trees. We would make sure that there wasn't a fire happening, okay? So we'd often encounter animals, and this one time we're building fence, and there's this moose there, and all of a sudden I was like, we got to keep working. And so I put my hands up and I charged a moose, okay? And it decided to run away. So we got to keep working. Well, what was cool about living in the mountains was we didn't have a TV. Our phones were just for mostly like, hey, we need to eat dinner. We need to do this. And so that was how most of life was in the mountains. Not a lot of distractions, not a lot of things happening. And my guess is most of us live in a world of distraction, because how many of you can tell me back the story I just said? So this is a video it's never going to touch, by the way. You can watch all day long. It ain't going to touch. I put that in there on purpose, all right? Did it touch? That's why I say it went doo-doo. It didn't do it. For all you crazy people who need to see it touch, here's the one that actually will touch, all right? Give it like 10 seconds. You'll actually get to see it. Just wait. And then it just goes. Y'all are crazy. All right, there you go. Listen, if you enjoyed that, it's on YouTube. Just find it, all right? Okay, here's the deal. I put that up there because tonight we're talking about distraction. And you all were clearly distracted by the DVD sign behind me. And the reality is like that's actually a world that we live in, all right? If you really think about it, and what I want to try to invite you all into is this concept of distraction. I was sharing my story about being in the mountains because the family I live with, we didn't even have a TV. So like our free time was spent fishing, was spent out in the woods doing different things, was helping work. Like that's what we did. And most of you, if you have a phone or a computer, there is just, like you get on this thing hundreds of notifications a day. Like you're just getting distracted moment after moment. And if you've been here long enough, I'm not hating on phones. There's a lot of things I think that are good about this, good about technology. But I think there's a level of, when I look at this room, when I look at your guys' lives, that distraction is not actually helpful. Now, I love the DVD thing. It's fun. But most of us are super busy. When you actually look at what you're doing in life, I could just sit there and you have list after thing you have to do. Whether it's schoolwork, whether it's a family hangout, whether it's you're trying to do practice for this sport, you got to study, whether it's you're just trying to play the best video game with your friends or hang out with your friends. Like the list just keeps going, right? And if you are bored, congrats. Like enjoy being bored every now and then. But there's this really cool quote that me and my wife were having a conversation about this, and she's like, hey, there's this lady named Sharon Miller who said this. And it says, the truly incredible thing about Jesus is that he constantly allowed himself to be interrupted by children, by the poor, the sick, the outcast, but he never allowed himself to be distracted. He never lost focus on why he was here because he never took his eyes fully off of the Father, aka God. Your focus determines your direction. What you give your attention to is where your mission will eventually drift. Too much time spent on anything other than Jesus will eventually derail your calling. Again, that's for people who are following Jesus. And this last line is fix your eyes on Jesus. I thought this was super helpful. I screenshotted it on Instagram and then shared it with you all here. So if you want a picture, go for it, or go check out Instagram. Here's the deal. I love this because sometimes we look at Jesus' life and we're like, it doesn't always make sense for here and now. I don't really know what to do when I hear about this story about this guy. And I think this is a really unique opportunity, right? Because if you're like me, and even just the DVD thing, we all get distracted super easily. And I think just clarifying some things for you all, my hope is you'll walk away today just with some things that are actually helpful that Jesus was able to help with. So, dude, my fat fingers are just not working today. Go back. Okay. I don't want to go to that. Yeah, you all are like, we'll play it at the end for you guys. So here's just something I want to get really practical with. When I say distraction, I don't always just want to talk about notifications, all right? Let's just start with friends for a second. If you guys were like me growing up, my friend group was actually a distraction because I spent more time trying to be accepted by them because I thought they were the cool crowd, and so I did everything to fit in rather than them just getting to know me and accepting me for who I was. I did everything to try to be funny. I did everything to try to get in trouble in class because that's what my friends were doing. And it really actually truly distracted me from finding friends who really cared about me. So for some of you, that might be your story. You care so much about how you dress to fit in with your friends that you're actually missing the main point. And I'm not by any means trying to get anyone feeling bad about their quote-unquote distractions. I just want to invite you guys into just some different language about what distraction might be. For some of you, maybe it is technology. Listen, I love watching shows. I love playing video games, but there's a moment where maybe I played for or watched a show for X amount of hours that it's actually no longer really helping me out. Like now I'm like, okay, I have now a to-do list, or I need to do the homework, or I need to go practice basketball. Like whatever it is for you, you start to give up what it is that you were really doing. And so again, if you're like, dude, I love binge watching shows, I got nothing against you, but I would say that's a distraction that's happening in your life, okay? Maybe for some of you it's sports. Sports, it doesn't feel like a distraction, but if you say you love Jesus and you don't know the last time you spent time with him because you're too busy with sports, sports has become a distraction. Now, I think there's ways to leverage faith in sports, but that's just another example. Maybe some of y'all are like, man, dating is the way to live life. I don't think there's anything wrong with dating. I think when it does start to take away from the main thing, it can become a distraction. If all of a sudden you have no more friends anymore, dating has maybe become a distraction. If who you're dating has taken away, if you say you love Jesus, who you're dating has started to kind of pull you away from your faith, might be a distraction. Just some other things to maybe just put some labels to what distraction means rather than just like, I play a game on my phone, right? Here's another piece that I was saving till the end, but I want to mention it now. And I get this so much. Maybe some of you here, and if this is you, I totally get it. You cope with hearing someone talk about real life by some of you play a game on your phone because that's how you like multitask and how you listen. I think some of us in this room might play a game or talk with our friends so we don't actually have to think about what's happening outside of these walls. So we'd rather just live in a life of distractiveness, if that is a word, rather than really going through what we're facing in life, right? And so if sometimes you just need to chat with your friend while someone's speaking, I get it. I'm someone who does not always like to look at the real things happening in my life and engage with it. But if I've had a lot of conversations with you guys. I don't know if you have a lot of conversations like this elsewhere. Maybe you get coffee or meal with a family or guardian or mentor. It can happen there. Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights. Maybe if you're on a sports team or have a teacher who's like, let me really invest in you. But these type of conversations don't always happen well. And so I'd encourage you for 10 to 15 minutes, try to put the distractions aside and just lean in. I think Jesus will meet you where you're at, whether you're trying to figure out who he is or whether you said you follow him, right? All right, so maybe there's someone out there who's like, dude, none of those are distractions. What are you talking about? And I think here's what I would say with that. If you're like, I don't really have distractions in my life, my question to you would be this. Where is it that you want to go with your life? What is it that you want to do? Do you have any goals for yourself in your life? Some of you, and I met with a bunch of middle schoolers last week, I asked them, and like 2 of them were able to even just say their hobbies. Most of them were like, I don't really know, which is an okay answer. But if you're sitting there being like, I don't have distractions in my life, I would say, well, if you don't know where you're going, then how are you going to know what's distracting you from, you don't really know where you're going. So how do you know what's a distraction? So again, you don't need to know like, man, this is the college I'm going to, this is the job I'm doing, this is the sport that I'm going to go play college. But maybe you're like, I want to be a good friend. I want to get through middle school with a decent grade. I want to get a job freshman or sophomore year. Then what are the things you can do now to get to that point, right? You will start to see what is the distraction in your life when you know where you actually are going, okay? Here's just a thing that I think was helpful. Does anyone watch Mark Rober in here? Has anyone chose to be, I don't know, maybe get this wrong, an aeronautical engineer because of Mark Rober? Are you like, I'm interested? A couple people? Is that the right one? A space engineer. I don't know what they're actually called. I bring up Mark Rober because I think there's a cool thing that he has done where he's like, hey, I did all the things to get to where I was going, and so I knew what to say no to. Same if you want to become an athlete someday, you got to say no to certain things. I think some people, when they hear that I didn't drink at any point in time alcohol while I was a college athlete. People are like, you're insane. And I was like, no, I just wanted to be the best athlete that I could. I knew that if I drank alcohol, it would hinder my college athletic ability, and I might not actually perform what I wanted to perform in game. And some people were like, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I was trying to be the best athlete I could be. So I said no because I knew where I wanted to go. Alcohol would have been a distraction. Basketball was my focus, all right? Here's just a verse. If some of you are like, man, what does this have to do with the Bible? What does the Bible say about this? One, I think that quote by Sharon Miller is a lot, or really helpful. But I also think this verse is really key. Hebrews 12, 1 through 2. And it says, keep your eyes on Jesus, who both began and finished this race we're in. Study how he did it, because he never lost sight of where he was headed. That exhilarating finish in and with God. He could put up with anything along the way, cross, shame, whatever. I think sometimes we look at Jesus and we're like, man, he doesn't get anything that I'm going through. And it's like I would arguably say they didn't even have running water at the time. His life was probably much harder than most of ours. Didn't even have simple water. Along with all the other things, people hating him, people trying to kill him. So this is just an encouraging verse that I think when we're sitting in a world of distraction, how do we try to keep our eyes on Jesus? And I get it. Some people in the room are like, I don't really know if I want to follow Jesus. And some of you in here have been like, that's important to me. This is a really cool place to be able to figure some of that stuff out. And so here's just a little bit. I think if you've said that you love Jesus, there's going to be moments where you're not always like thinking about him, right? No one can think about Jesus 24/7. So my encouragement to you is figure out what is it where you want to be in a year, and how can following Jesus help get to that point? What are some things you need to do with your faith that'll just help you maybe care about people a little bit more? Maybe you're trying to not say those mean things to people. I think Jesus will help lead the way on that. Maybe you have a lot of hard things going on in life. You got crazy anxiety. I think Jesus is actually someone who you can find some peace in. I think if you're sitting there like, I don't really know about this whole faith thing, man, just understanding that you have distractions in your life that actually aren't getting you to where you want to go is a huge, helpful lesson, all right? I don't really have much more to say. I think you guys showing up on these nights, we love seeing you all. And I think after listening to people speak all day long, and you guys are generous and listen to us for another 15 minutes is super appreciative. So thanks for listening. I'd encourage you as you guys move into next week and the week after that, try to put aside the distractions for these 15 minutes and just experience what can happen in this room. I think Jesus changed my life, and I think he either will or has to many people in this room, all right? Will you guys pray with me? We'll put the chairs away. And concessions will be open in like 10 minutes, okay? Concessions aren't open yet. Jesus, thank you so much for tonight. Thanks for my friends here. Thanks for us just having a lot of fun. I love this crew here. Thanks that they all showed up tonight. We're honored to be with them. More importantly, we just want to try to live a life that doesn't have distractions. So you help us with that. And ultimately, just thank you for the way that you love us. Appreciate all my friends here. We appreciate you, Jesus. Pray in your name. Amen. Amen. All right. We love you. Jesus loves you. Have a great rest of the night. See you next week.